Trustpilot. Welcome again, everybody. We're going to chat about the AI effects on social ads today. It's going to be very in-depth, audience segmentation, creating content at scale, and how to use social proof to really enhance your Black Friday ads. So I just have a very practical announcement that I just want to make as well, which is actually around questions. We are very much open to questions. We'll handle a lot of them at the end, but if you do have something that pops up that's urgent, leave it in the questions tab. I actually want to ask you guys to test it at the moment. Let me know where you're from, just so we know that everything is working. Do you see the questions tab? Could you let me know where you're from? I would love to see if we actually would get your questions in. Sweden, okay, Helsingborg, Netherlands, there we go. Thank you so much for testing. That is a real relief for us that we know that we can interact with you and that you can ask your questions if you have them. South of Sweden, Belgium, Holland. Well, super nice that you guys are all here, and we're going to get started on all of this right now. So just a very short introduction about myself. My name is Michelle Reed. I'm the head of marketing for Benelux and Sweden at Trustpilot, and with me are some really good experts in their fields. They are all the AI whizzes from the Nordics, I would say. And I'm going to hand it over to Leif to introduce himself as well. Leif, go ahead.
Hi, nice to meet everybody. My name is Leif Sandström. I'm the founder and CEO of Renable, and we work with retailers and brands across Nordics and Europe to help them to create better content using generative AI. Nice to be here today.
Super nice to have you here today, Leif. And Johan, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Nice to be here, and hi everyone. My name is Johan. I'm the commercial manager at the Sift Lab, and I will today talk about how you can scale with AI and targeting better audiences.
Amazing.
That's me.
Great. Okay, and finally, David.
Yes.
Could you introduce yourself for the people who missed it when you introduced yourself earlier?
Yeah, sure. I'm an e-commerce consultant at OmniArch. So we help companies with their growth. That's
amazing.
A very introduction.
Great. I do see one message that image and sound is frozen for Janneke. Could anybody else let me know if it's also frozen for them? If it is, please let me know. Janneke, it might be that you might need to rejoin otherwise. Okay, there we go. Janneke is back. Amazing. And thank you, Yasmin, for confirming as well. That's lovely to hear that it's not frozen. Okay, so just a very short intro. I'm not going to talk about all of this too much, but just so you kind of know also what our companies do. I'm not going to go into Trustpilot a lot. I hope everybody knows us a bit. We are in the business of trust, so I'll also talk about that a little bit later. So I'm just going to hand it over to Sift Lab.
Yes, I just was muted. So yeah, but Sift Lab, yeah, we are AI-powered customer data platform. So we are helping e-commerce companies and retail companies to scale their business using data and AI. So in our platform we have built-in machine learning based on science, world-leading science, and we have 3 different things. We're working with predictive analytics, customer product and campaign analytics, and we're working with what I will talk about today, how you can use AI segmentation to do better audiences for your social media campaigns, and we're working with personalized recommendations. So, and we have a lot of companies we're working with in the Nordics and a lot of really good partners like Renable, OmniArch, and Trustpilot. So that's us.
Amazing. Sounds like real expert knowledge here, I would say. And Renable, could you do a quick intro?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, Renable provides retailers and brands with generative AI enriched marketing feeds. So we really help them to take the asset they have on the e-commerce platform and make sure that in every marketing channel like Google, Meta, TikTok, or email, they can have an enriched feed which help them to have text, images, and video at scale. All the content is quality assured, and we have done this since 2018, so long time before like the GPT hype and what we have seen the last 2 years. So happy to be here and look forward to the session.
Very much ahead of the curve then, 2018. And just final OmniArc, and then we're gonna deep dive into all the content.
Yes, we're a growth agency for e-commerce. What we do is assignments such as interim positions for e-commerce managers, digital marketing manager, and positions like that. And we also help companies with their digital strategies and how to grow their sales.
Amazing. Okay, well, on that note, now everybody kind of knows who is in the room. We're gonna talk about what we're actually gonna talk about today. So first off, we're just gonna talk a little bit about the role of social proof and reviews in marketing, especially during Black Friday. We're also gonna then go into the full audience deep dive. How do we actually go into the segmentation? Then how to create ads that engage with AI. So really life's field on how to actually get those generative ads as well, quickly up and running. Then we're going to have the effectiveness of social proof in ads, and then we're just going to do a quick conclusion and our Q&A. So I'll kick it off today. So I'm lucky, I get to talk a bit more. So today we're going to first start with the role of social proof and reviews in marketing. So one thing that I think is really, really, really interesting on this note, and this is kind of where I want to start today, because this is new research that Forbes did, and I've only heard about it last month, which is actually that 90% of the businesses think that consumers actually trust their business. So this is pretty crucial because it means that all of us, you listening, all of us as well in this room, we all think we're trustworthy as a company. We all think that everybody will believe us, everybody will buy from us, etc. However, what we've actually seen is that only 30% of consumers actually trust the businesses. So that's a huge gap. That's around 60% gap. So we think we're here, consumers think we're here pretty much, which is insane. This is extremely noteworthy during busy periods. And what we actually see there as well, we are one of those places that companies go or consumers go to for trust, is that they actually do, or they are really much looking for those proof points. And we see this in increased number of people visiting our website. So generally in the week before, so we have around, I think 65, something like that, million visitors per month. During Black Friday week, that volume is 25% higher in 2023 compared to the week before. So during this period, having that gap and you're not sure where your business is crucial. So I would definitely say check out where your business is, make sure that the trust is there. So one of the key points that we're talking about in terms of trust is social proof. Social proof is where actually others can see what is actually trustworthy based on other people's behaviors. Is the restaurant busy that we want to go to? How many people have bought that product that maybe you were eyeing on Instagram ads for months already because they've just been retargeting you? I'm getting targeted by bed linen all the time and I do want to buy them. Definitely waiting for that for Black Friday. These points are things that people are very much looking into in this period. I'm never going to buy the shoes on the left because it looks like they haven't done very well, even though on the right, company, maybe different company, shoes are doing a lot better. Very important to actually have that proof point there as well. Customer reviews, of course, they are very valuable in each part of the funnel and this part of the social proof. We're going to talk a bit later on the social ads because that's what this webinar is about a lot. But I just want to show you like a lot of these parts where these trust elements are actually very crucial, especially in the Black Friday period. We have done some research, sorry, and we have seen that websites and socials are actually the top 2 places where consumers look, those channels where consumers actually look for information about brands. So having trust points in these two channels is very crucial for Black Friday. So obviously we're talking about social ads today, and that's our main topic, but website is also very important. So just make sure you have your base in order, as well as what we're going to talk about today, which is the full acquisition part to it. Another thing that I want to highlight, of course, social proof is not just reviews, but it's also family and friends. It can also be the consumer websites, but it can also be other bigger sources such as schools, education systems, mainstream news, etc., where people actually put their trust in. So obviously it's not there. It's also, trust is also can be found in other places, but I just want to show you kind of the top list of where we see people are looking to get that trust. On that note, we are going to deep dive into the AI section of this webinar, and I'm going to hand it over to Johan.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Very interesting. I'm so excited about this this topic. So yes, yeah, my name is Johan, and I can start with just I'm going to show you a small case here when I'm talking about this later on, talking about Vinoteket. And I was the CMO there before. It's now also a customer to us, and I think many have that challenge. How can you optimize your marketing, because this is a very important period here during Black Month and Christmas for sales, and how can you automate the process for making like better audiences? And that was a big challenge for me before, and everything starts with the data. So what Michelle talked about before, she talked about all the data, and you know, customers, you can see the reviews on your products and everything in your service. So, and if you start with the data, so before it was like you optimized your campaigns based on the media agencies that was doing surveys, and then it was the cookies, and then it was like scraping tools, second part data, and now you need to like build value from your own data. You know, need build value from your first party data and scale it with AI for better campaigns. So if you take the next slide, then so AI, data and AI will create better audiences. So I think many sit in the same position here with the challenge that it's really difficult as the e-com and the retail business to use the data across the whole journey. It's time consuming to do segmentation, to do customer analytics, to understand what campaigns perform better and others. And that's often because of you don't have an effective way to use your data for your campaigns, and poor quality of data in different systems, you work in silos in the functions, everything. So then you need to start to work together and to find the solutions to scale here. So if you go to the next slide, Michelle. So what data you need? Yeah, you need all your purchase data, like order data, historical data, so the AI can be trained and optimized on all your data. And the data you need is customer data, product data, and marketing campaign data. And Trustpilot, that's data that the customers give you on the product. And when you have that, you get a lot of insights, but often you have problems and a challenge to like, how can I do actions on the insights that I get? I get a lot of insights from my data, but I cannot do better segmentation and target better. So we go to the next slide from here. So if you can map your data, set up a structure for your data to use it, and to automate the process to scale segmentation for better targeting, we see a lot of high uplift on your campaigns, and you can optimize better on your social media, but also in CRM, for example, email marketing. So both this is great to know. If we go to the next slide, I will go in more in detail here. So this is a common customer to us. So like, and I worked as a CMO here before at Vinoteket, so I know the wine business very well, and they are really good at using their data to scale like their campaigns, to automate processes, and do better effect on their campaigns. So if we go to the next slide, so here is just the slide from their platform. So they have a platform, they have all their data, and on their purchase data, they have Trustpilot and review data on all their products. So they have like, they can see what product performs best with best profit based on quality from customers and value for money. So score 1 to 5 here. So here they can pick the products that they want to do an audience with, and they can click on create audience. If you go to the next slide, and what's happening there, where you have all your data, you can say to the AI, okay, right now, predictive here, find the best audience to sell this specific products. And then if you click again, Michelle, you get the result here. So here it says like, okay, based on this, for example, 5 products from Italian wines, this is the best scored customers and the best audience to target them with. And the fine line here is, the good thing here is that you automatically can export this audience into Meta or into your CRM system, and then push a better campaigns with better effect. And so it's most likely wines, the best customers right now to buy these wines. And then from there, what David and Leif will talk about is like, okay, then Renable, that's what I like with this session, is like, okay, you have all the data, you have a better target group, and then you send it in automatically with some clicks, and then you can also scale it with better content, because content will create like purchases. So if you take the next slide, I can just show you some, can be interesting to see some easy steps here for profitable growth for Vinoteket. So when you have all your data, you can do more effective customer analytics and do automatic segmentation. So and then you can scale, you can increase sales in email marketing and in your social media marketing, and also on site. So that was everything for me, and hope you get some good information from here to take with you for Black Month. And I leave over to Leif. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting as well, Johan. Sorry to interrupt, but I think it is very interesting that you are looking at so much historical data to actually find, you know, who is actually the target audience that will be the most likely. And of course, it's based on previous purchase, but also possibly on specific other behavior as well. And I think that's really interesting that you're grabbing so much of the data that you have to actually try to get that audience, and then letting AI do all that work for you. It's really a good way to do it.
Yeah, find the clusters, and you can find many things in your data. One interesting point here, yes, one more thing is that what Vinoteket also does here is their customer service team using their data and a lot of like Trustpilot data and review data to like recommend better products for their customers, and products from, for example, Italian with best profit for the business. They can scale profitability. That's
amazing.
Also,
yeah. Okay, well, sorry to take your glamour of life, because of course you were just giving him the honor. So there you go, Live. It's all up to you now to talk about how to create ads that engage with AI.
Great, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Johan. So Johan talked about how to create AI segmentation and audiences. And if you look at digital marketing, it actually contains of 2 main components. You have the audience, you have the segmentation, and you have the content part. So now I will focus on how you can actually use AI to create content at scale. So today, why aren't retailers reusing their assets today? They have a lot of assets. They have the brand, of course. They have a lot of content about the product, about the value of the product, and a lot of reviews like Trustpilot, service review, user review, like social proof. But it's a very complex structure retailer has today. They have a lot of products, often more than 10,000. They have a lot of content, and all of that has to be presented in all the ad channels. It's the Google, it's the Meta, it's TikTok, it's email. All of those have various formats, and that makes it very complex. And that means that the absolute majority of the marketing you see today is looking like the picture to the left. It's a product image with a white background. It's a very generic statement about shipping, return policy, which actually doesn't really perform. So if we go to the next slide, what you would like to do as a retailer is actually to reuse those key assets, the brand, the content, and reviews. So I would try to explain what you need to do and how you can work with those components to reuse them actually in every single ad channel. So you have nice looking ads, it's colorful, it's using the brand, the content, and actually social proof in every marketing campaign and for every single product. So if we go to the next slide. So today, if you look at this schematic picture, you go from number 1 here to number 2. You take the product feed, which every retailer has. It's a feed which includes the product image, the stock, the price, the product information, all of that is included in the product feed, and you feed that to the appropriate ad channel. So what we have helped retailers to do is actually to process the content they have and all the assets. So we process the images, we process the text, and make them ad friendly. We make them suitable for every ad channel, and we upload that to the ad channel. So it's like a plugin. So if we go to the next slide, I will come back to more details. If you look at generative AI today, everybody's heard about ChatGPT and Midjourney, which is like the big LLM and generic LLM, which you can use to create content. For example, go to ChatGPT and ask for a question. I want to have this text about this product. I want to have this description of a product. And when you do that, of course, it's very easy today to use those models to create content. But the problem with those models is that it's not suitable for e-commerce today. It's a generic model which you can use for many use cases, but it's not actually suitable for e-commerce. So why is that? Well, actually in e-commerce, you need to have a model which is specifically tailored and suited for e-commerce use case. For example, the text has to be adapted to the content you have and to quality assurance of the text, because as a retailer you can't have a text which is not accurate. If you look at the image, typically we like to have a product image which is actually accurate for the product you want to sell. And if you use, for example, Midjourney or another of these models, you can't really guarantee that the product image is 100% accurate. So that's really the problem. You can't have quality assurance. And also when you use the big models, when you use the scalability, which is critical in e-commerce, typically it gets quite expensive. I will come back to that as well. So if we go to the next slide. So what challenges do you need to address beside creating the content, for example, like ChatGPT can do? It has to be cost effective. That's why you try to have an in-house model which you train on the specific use case, which makes it cheaper and adapted to the use case. It has to be quality assured, because you don't want to have content which is not accurate. For example, telling a story about the product which is not correct, or an image which is not showing the correct picture. And the third component here, it has to be integrated into the process which a retailer has today, because the effect is not there before you have like integration to the process you have today. Because if you create a text element or create an image element, it's very hard then to get that into like a big process like you have on e-commerce. And that means it has to be suitable for the standard processes. And if you go to the next slide. So typically you take the feed which a retailer has, the product feed and the review feed, for example, from Trustpilot. You feed that into a platform which can handle those. If you go to the next, and you process the images, you need 2 AI models to process image. First, you need to classify, is it a product image or is it a lifestyle image? Because the lifestyle image, you want to have that as it is, because it's just showing how the product could be used in the daily lifetime. The other part is the product image. You want to take away the background, because typically, as you see on the product to the left, the product image has a white background. But be able to use the image in multiple use cases, you would like to take away the background. And then you use an AI to take away the white background. And that's the 2 use cases for images. If you go to the next, you also need 2 actually AI models for the text. One is to handle text, the product description, to make it ad friendly. So you have one model to make typical product description ad friendly. And then the second part is for the user review. Well, if you have 10,000 user review or social proof, it's very hard to select which of those is the appropriate use in an ad. So you need an AI to select the best review and actually the best part of a review, so it's ad friendly. Typically just 4 or 5 words, which highlights the strength and the pros of a product. And that is why you use an AI model to create text. And then the next slide. When you have generated those like content elements you need for your whole catalog and every single product, you generate a feed for the appropriate ad network. Meta has 6 different sizes. They have appropriate text and video format. Google has another. Email has a third. So you need to make sure that the feed you generate suits the ads that you would like to target. And if you go to the next slide. So here's an example where I will hand over to David later. So from the left, you see that this was before we helped the client to enrich the feed. And to the left, you see how they have color schemes, they have user review or social proof, and also video. And now I'll hand over to David. What kind of impact can this really make in reality?
Thank you, Leif. And I will give you practical hands-on examples and results on how it could work from one of our customers where we were assigned a role as a performance marketing. And one of the recommendations we did was actually trying out Renable and doing an A/B test in order to optimize the meta advertising. So in practice, what we did was basically we handed over the product data feeds to Renable. We added some custom labels in the feed where we said, okay, this one should have always good price badge on it, and so on. We also handed over the token to the Trustpilot account to fetch all the reviews for all the products. And we gave examples of the graphic design and some templates on what color schemes and graphic elements should look like. What we did then was getting a suggestion of the design from Renable, and we had a sign off from UT for this Nordic Field website that we're testing it on. And then we actually set up the A/B test as a simple split test for the dynamic product ads, for the remarketing campaigns, and the prospecting to drive new traffic to the website. So what we did was basically just copying this exact same setup that we had on the standard ads and make an exact copy of that with the new Renable feeds and those AI augmented ads. So and as the standard campaign had been optimized for quite a long time, we decided to sort of reboot and start over with both to give them the equal opportunity to optimize as well. And as Leif showed, here are some examples on what it looked like before. That's the one with the white background. So we centered the images, the product images, added the badge, added product reviews, and so on. And all this was done through the AI of Renable. And the first results that we received was actually a fail. And the reason for that was the tags didn't follow from Meta to Google Analytics. We noticed a tracking issue in Google Analytics 2/3 of the way into the test, and so on. But I mean, yes, that was the result we got, and we had an opportunity to start over again once we fixed the tracking issues. So we had to take 2 of the test. And now with the tracking issues fixed, here are the results. And initially it was about as clear as this profit curve that I tried to draw from Stable Diffusion AI. I said, give me a general profit curve, and that's what I received. And the results
I love that you did this with AI.
Yeah.
And this is great.
The initial results of the test was pretty much as clear as this. But after a while, and it also showed different results, of course, depending on the attribution model and where you measured it. Of course, Meta says one thing, Google Analytics says another, and there are different attribution models in between. But For the Nordic field, they were very specific on measuring through Google Analytics for the last click attribution model. So that's what we actually used to follow up and measure the results from as well. And as the results shifted back and forth for a little while, it started to stabilize as the time went on. So and we eventually did get a proper results. So here are some actual figures on how it went. We did have some figures from Renable, from their case studies on the click-through rate, the conversion, cost per acquisition, and average order value. And we did see some interesting results. And in general, the remarketing ads actually performed worse when we looked at the cost of sales and the final gross margin, the GM3, except from in different segments. So it was a lot more effective in the very youngest segment, whereas the prospecting ads were performing a lot better all the way, but for all segments except the very youngest audience. And also in general, we saw that men responded much better and gave a better results than women in this case as well. But we did see a really good uplift in the conversion rate, a really, well, significantly better result in the cost per order or cost per acquisition. However, surprisingly, the average order value, which we expected to go up, actually went down. So that's why we had those results. And also, it's important to say, we did measure through Google Analytics for the last click attribution model. So we heavily relied on the Google attribution model measuring the meta advertising. So it looked a lot different if we looked in Meta Ads Manager. Some other KPIs that is actually worth noticing as well was that the stay time and add to cart rate was actually doubled for the Renable ads than the standard ones. And we also saw an increase in the engagement rate on the website on 25 to 28% for those as well. So to give you some conclusions on the next one, some key takeaways that is good to know is that if you already do dynamic product advertising using a data feed, it's definitely worth testing AI augmentation ads, I would say. However, do make sure to track in the right way as always, and be sure how to measure it, in what system to measure it, and what KPIs you should actually have as your as the preferred KPIs that you are looking at, or the main KPIs. There's also very important that you do have enough budget to get some volume, because if you're doing an A/B test and you don't have enough budget, the A/B test will take forever to get the results. So I would say at least somewhere in the region about 50 to 60,000, well, this is Swedish kroner, but say 5,000 to 6,000 euros a month at least to get some data to work with. And as I mentioned, it took some time to get the data to stabilize. It will run all over the place, but finally it will sort of settle down and you will get final results. So give it some time to before you finally evaluate it. So and also the next step is once you've done an initial test and see what works best. Of course, try different ad variations. You can add backgrounds for Black Friday, for example, or campaigns. And you should also, of course, optimize it. And as I mentioned, it works better for certain segments or target audiences. So of course, you should also optimize it. It might not be working for everyone or not as good for everyone. So you need to work with the segmentation as well. The next step is also you could try adding the video dynamic product ads as well, as people respond differently to those as well. So that's some takeaways and a practical example on how it was set up.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights into the test that you've done. I think it's really cool that you're showing so much in-depth insights also into the types of ads that you've tried to do, and what actually worked better, and also the impact on the conversion rate that we're seeing. Of course, also with like Black Friday, we also always know that the margins are a bit lower, but generally the volumes are very, very large. So I do think it is really interesting in this period to try and test, see kind of what is being picked up as well in this, which is a little bit maybe contradictory to what you're saying of the stabilizing, but I do think it's a really, really interesting opportunity as well to see in a quicker way what actually catches on with larger volumes, because this is generally quite a unique period in the year. Luckily though, as well, I know that there have been a lot of tests done with other customers as well. So we are trying to save you a little bit of a headache. And that's why I'm going to deep dive into the effectiveness of social proof in ads. So Renable and Trustpilot, we have actually also created a report together, which was based on, I think, hundreds of tests that a couple of, I think, 10 or 10 plus at least customers have tested. And we did see significant results as well with changing the background. I think generally we see around a 20% uplift in the conversion rates. So it is a very good to test. How can you actually use AI to change the background, to make those products optimal, more appealing, etc. Do you want to add the pricing? What do you want to do there, etc. Of course, we also tested the social proof in the ads. So that is what I'm going to just jump into right now, because I do think it's a really interesting test to try. If looking at that, we always, of course, have this challenge, all of us, where we have never enough budget to actually implement everything we want to do. We actually see that, yeah, we're all under pressure, like I guess at least 3 out of the 4 of us who are chatting today as well, is under pressure to achieve like a higher ROI, and I'm guessing everybody who's listening as well. So with that, we did actually see that some pieces of content have quite a high impact and some have a bit less of an impact in terms of social proof. So something that we see here, for example, is that when you actually have those number of reviews, so let's say here it's more than 3,000 reviews, so this was a research that was done by London Research, then they actually saw that an ad becomes 45% more attractive. If, however, you just add the logo and the stars, for example, it can be 4 times more persuasive. And if you have the trust score, so let's say 4.8 out of 5, then it's 20% more likely. So there's a lot of these aspects where you can see it has a lot of impact to test with that social proof component, and actually, you know, trying to bridge that gap that a lot of Black Friday users are actually experiencing, because here is the moment when they might see your business for the first time, they might be have been retargeted, but they haven't yet like fully looked into it. This is like that moment of the year as well where you can actually grasp them and then try to at least bridge that trust gap that exists here. Because if they don't know you yet, but now you're also offering those nice prices, like this is a really interesting moment for them to switch, and having that point of trust in those ads already in the beginning. As David mentioned, like it can increase the engagement on the websites as well when you have an ad that actually matches what the consumer is seeing after. So that is important to be aware of. Renable did a lot of tests with a lot of their users, and they saw a lot of interesting results. So actually, when we look at specifically ads for products, we saw interesting things. So adding the average rating for product reviews on an ad like this, that increased the return on ad spend by around 10 to 20%. So that's already a really nice start. However, if we then also see that if I wouldn't add both, because that's a bit too much on an ad, you don't want it to distract from the ad either. If we then, for example, add the service reviews, so like the total of your business and what your business is like, which is especially really good if, for example, you're a bit of a more of an unknown player, because there's a lot of people that you know your business, but if you talk about it, like, does the other person also know it? Or if you're doing like brand research or consumer research, do they know it? If they don't, then generally service ads can also be really interesting for you to test, because then we actually see that it's more about the general business, and then we see around 10 to 25% increase in return on ad spend. One thing that Leif also mentioned, which I think is really interesting, is like using those quotes. We have also tested this with some different industries. And for example, on the left, you see a banking, which is not necessarily extremely relevant here, but I just leave it in because I do think it's really interesting to see. We actually saw that quotes have quite a high uptake. So 64% are more likely to click on an ad if there is a quote, for example. Oh, sorry, yeah. And for like completely different service as well, we actually see that so many people, they prefer if there's that personal touch, if there's actually someone else trying to sell it, actual real content besides what the company is writing themselves. So having that additional person validating, that is very valuable for the consumer. And the quote is also something that Leif saw had a really big impact on the customers that we're testing as well, which was an increase of around 50 to 100% on the return on ad spend. So if you want to test something, I would say test quotes as well. I mean, of course, in these cases, the tests that were done also had optimized backgrounds. They also had all of that. So good to be aware of. Why do we see that quotes really work? I would say because it's real. It's actually from someone else. It's not the business. Like, I would never be able to think about beautiful handmade bed for my son who has autism. Like, I would, like, how can you think of something like that? That's really unique, something that you could have added in your bed ad, which has like, yeah, like I think one of the most unique twists almost. Yeah, or like this other lovely little quote that I highlighted, very small, hobbit size. Like, how funny is that? Like, and it's not something that we can think about. It's like actual real people delivering this content as well to you. And I do think this is also a really important thing that Leif mentioned in terms of AI. Use an AI that's actually suitable for e-com, that is using the data at hand and not just grasping everything from the internet, because then it will paraphrase, it will make it different than an actual quote. So good thing to be aware of. I wanted to also show some examples. I'm going to go through this quite quickly. I don't want to bore you with all of this because we're kind of covering it a little bit with the examples at hand, but I just want to show you one Belgian clothing brand as well, where they actually saw that they tested two different ways of ads. One was just with stars to see what effect that had. I think in that one, they had 4.6 higher return on ad spend. In another one, they tested logo from Trustpilot and stars, and there they got 3 times more clicks. So the different types of content that you have available in terms of social proof can bring very different results as well. So those very small tweaks, as David also was saying, if you test once, make sure that it's properly set up, that it is actually being tracked, but also test again to see if maybe the content was the way that you want it, or maybe should have been maybe redone a little bit different to match what your audience is expecting. To kind of, yeah, continue on that. We do see that you can spend the same with more rewards, higher clicks, lower costs, higher conversions. We've seen an interesting other test with Fairphone, where actually they tested a quote and without a quote, but this was actually like a bit more in an awareness type of campaign going into a new market. And there we actually saw that quotes worked less. Having no quote worked better. So very important to really test what actually works for you as well. And I think those are the examples I just want to share with you, because you will get that bulk in of consumers. You are going to spend money on your ads. So use this time also to test it out, because you're going to get more results in quicker. Sorry, one final example is actually from parfumerie.be or parfumerie.nl. We actually also saw that they are using it full funnel. So we see higher like conversions in their emails, Black Friday emails. We see higher conversions on their website when adding the social proof, and also in their social ads. They're using it very simple in the bottom of their ads, logo and stars, and they saw 90% higher conversion ratio and 26% higher click-through rate. So really try it, test it out. And if you are in the mood, make it full funnel, but I can imagine that's more of a 2025 thing. So conclusion, I'm gonna leave this one to live just because my voice is like, whew, and I've been talking way too much. So thanks for hanging in with my coughing. And then I'll leave this one to live, if that's okay.
Thank you, Michelle. You have done a great job, even though you have a cough. So trying to summarize some of the conclusion from our perspective at Renable and what you see from David. What is really the value for retailers to reuse the key asset they have? It's actually a great return of the investment to reuse the brand, the content, and actually especially the reviews. The results which come from this is to have relevant content. The consumer, the prospects, we check your ads and are affected by them. If it's relevant for them, it will impact them more. It's actually a variation, because typically we very quickly get bored of an ad or a communication or a message. So it's important to do variation. And actually also when you do test, by doing variation, you learn better also what works actually, because there's no absolute truth in marketing. For some consumers, one message works. For another consumer, another message works. So it has to be variation as well. And it should be nice looking and well balanced. It's a good brand, a good structure, but not too much information. So it has to be balanced as well. If you look at the AI enriched feeds, what do they really provide? Increase the result. And as you saw from David, especially in the prospecting part, it breaks through the clutter much better than the standard ad, which is also important, because in the prospecting part area, actually brands and retailers get new customers coming in, and to win the prospecting competition, so to say, is critical to drive great result. It differentiates towards the competition. It helps you to build your brand in every single digital channel. You are communicating your brand strength. In the end, I want to reiterate what Michelle also shared. What we have seen in all our A/B tests across all segments, across all product categories, is actually social proof at product level is the best performing content category. So if I would share something which I think is the best conclusion, social proof is critical actually to use in marketing. It will drive great result to use that. Thanks everybody for being part of the webinar with us.
So I think some of the learnings that I'm personally going to take away is definitely in terms of the audience segmentation. It's just very important to use all the data that you have as your base. Like look with the predictive model like Johannes actually did, like use all that data, find those audiences, use the tools that are interesting, such as SIFLab, that can actually help you find those audiences very quickly, just so you can actually easily target the ones that you know will convert more. Secondly is definitely use the product feed info that you already have. You worked on hard, you wrote those descriptions, you created those images. Use that as the base for your AI, and use that to actually like optimize all of your content, and make sure that that is happening smoothly. And thirdly, test with the social proof, because that is definitely something that you want to be doing at the moment, and that will drive conversions for you as well. So those 3 learnings is something that we really wanted to share with you today. And I'm very curious if there are some questions as well. And I do think we also have a little bonus slide for you just because of Black Friday. So if you want, put those questions in. We'll go to the bonus slide, and then I'll start mentioning some of the questions as well. So put them in the questions tab for now while we handle the, oh, did we take away the bonus slide? Or did we not? The 1 to 100?
I also have a question to David.
Oh, well, then we just immediately start with the questions, and we start with Johan.
But what I think everybody want to know is where you start, because this is a lot of information. And so David that are sitting at an agency and on the customer side. So where do you start? How many use cases? And yeah, where should we start here and the customer start?
Well, what we did was actually doing a general A/B test to see how it functioned, and also be able to sort of go from there and then start to deep dive into sort of segmentation and see, okay, is there any audiences that works better than others, and how should we try different strategies in different audiences. So we decided to go broad to start with a full product feed with all the products, and to a more general target group initially, and then narrow it down from there.
I think that's really solid advice, David. Definitely, if you actually want to start with these tests, because there's so much to test, start with the base, start with your brand. What does your brand look like? So yeah, I would say the content and what it looks like is a great place to start, and then narrow it down as well with the audience, and testing as well with social proof as well. Yeah. Okay, so we do have another question as well from Janneke. So she says, interesting. So thank you so much. That's really sweet to hear. Could you share some guidelines or steps or plan on how to get started with implementing all of this? So I hope that this already kind of helped a little bit. I would say it is 3 different aspects. So it also depends where you are already with these 3 aspects. What does your current content already look like? Do you know it can be improved? Then start there. What does your current social, like your trust profile, I would say, look like? Do you have like the reviews that you are proud of already? Because if you don't yet have that, then I would say you have to first start to collect the reviews to actually get to a place where you want to showcase them, and then only start testing with them, right? Like, you're not maybe going to share if you have a 3 out of 5 stars. It's maybe not as appealing to the consumer in the end. In terms of audiences, I would say this is really good if you have already a good base as well. If you have some, like, maybe not if you are just starting out, like if you're a completely new business, you don't have that historical data, it's going to be really tricky. So then start with a broad base, and then when you do have that data, then go back to Johan, let him help also with the audience segmentation, and actually find those audiences that really help out and are the most interesting to sell to. So it depends where you are also with your business, what is the most suitable plan for you.
Yeah, regarding the audiences, when you have all the data, you need to choose maybe 1 or 2 use cases to start with. For example, we can take Dave at Nordic Feel, like they sell a lot of brands. Then one use case can be like, okay, how can we scale retail media? Like brand campaigns can be one thing, like to help Chanel find new customers, for example, at Meta, or like sell an AI audience best customer to sell Chanel today on email marketing. That's very that's a good use case to start with, for example, or a category campaign or from products. So yeah.
I can also add a comment for the enriching the feed. I think it's important for retailers and brands that it's easy to get started. So I think both Renable and SIFT-Lab have made it easy to start with 1 or 2 use cases. Typically, our customers start with Meta because it's a very visual platform. It's very good for rich content. So you start to do a test on Meta. You start to do it with what you have today. And then, as Michelle said, you can add in more content and more relevance in the marketing later. But start with what you have, do some easy tests, and then have like an ongoing upgrade where you add in more content, more look and feel, or different audiences. So it's easy to get started, and it's important to get started, but then you will try to work along that. Start with Meta, start with AI audience, then you can test Google, TikTok, or email. So it's all about get started and then take one step at a time.
Definitely. And Janneke is asking for your email address, I think. So that's nice. Great start, Janneke. Good way to connect, definitely. I think we are at time, so we're probably going to round it off. If you think, wow, I still have so much to do, you do already have a trust score that you like, start with testing that. That's something that Life has already tested with like tons of customers. So we know that that can bring like some good results as well. So I would say that's an easy test maybe to start with for this Black Friday. And I hope that these learnings that you got will help you already here, but can also help you a bit throughout the rest of the year. And I also want to thank you very, very much for coming. And I really want to thank Leif, Johan, and David, all of you, for joining and bringing all your expertise on the subject in terms of AI. So thank you as well for that. So
thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and to see you next time as well. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.